evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News Weekend. It's been a week since the 1492 land-back lane standoff reignited in Caledonia. Over the past few days, we've heard the views of the land-back defenders. Now we get a glimpse of how some community members feel. Here's Annette Francis in Six Nations.
Gary Foreman and his partner have set up a small business for themselves near the village of Ohsweken in Six Nations. Between this and another job, the Mohawk man has a busy routine that keeps him away from the nearby land-back camps. He may not be there physically, but he fully supports the camp's actions.
I just knew that was going to happen, where the judge was going to rule against us, because, you know, that there's no way we can win in court anyways, because, you know, and so our people just got sick of it so they finally starting to do something, but it's waking up everybody to what's going on, so that hopefully that the federal government will sit down with our people and start negotiating.
The group has been occupying the Mackenzie Meadows development site since July. They're calling for negotiations to get the land back. Last week, after a clash with police, they dug in, overturned a bus, and blocked the main roadway in Caledonia. Taya Miller says it's heartbreaking to see what's happening.
We want our land back. It is our land. I just wish it wasn't how it is today. With all the violence, it should be more of a peaceful protest.
Colin Martin is the police liaison for the Haudenosaunee Confederacy Chiefs Council. He says there is division in the community.
Yeah, there's some things that have been questioned by our own community, and that's fine and dandy. But again, it's about getting out there and showing that support and being behind your people who are taking a stand and putting their lives at risk in terms of being jailed and fined and on our own territory.
According to Martin, it's going to take education, unity, and a willingness to listen to resolve the long-standing dispute. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Six Nations, Mohawk Territory.
The long-standing conflict between the town of Oka and Kanesatake Mohawk Territory has taken a new twist. This time with Oka trying to claim the Pines, the site of the 1990 crisis, as their heritage site. Here's Lindsay Richardson with more.
These pines are sacred to Kanesatake. Oral history says they were planted by the Mohawks hundreds of years ago. But in the eyes of the neighboring municipality of Oka, the pines are on their land. It's an issue that predates even the so-called Oka crisis of 1990, which is why the recent consultations held by Oka to turn the pines into a heritage site have a sinister overtone.
It's absolutely mind-boggling how he thinks he's going to get away with this.
Just weeks ago, Oka announced their intent to make the pines a provincial heritage site. After a significant uproar from Kanesatake and a letter to the Quebec Premier, the dispute was temporarily stayed.
On s'entend que les gens de Kanesatake font partie du territoire d'Oka. Donc Kanesatake fait partie du territoire d'Oka.
But last week, Oka Mayor Pascal Quevillon began holding public consultations. They're now proposing a bylaw designating the Pines a municipal heritage site under Quebec's Cultural and Heritage Act, a process that does not require consultation with or explicit consent from First Nations. Mohawk Council says Quevillon's strategy is, quote, a disguise to dispossess the Mohawks of their land governance.
It's all race-based. He once said that if the Mohawks repatriate these lands, Oka will be enclaved by the Mohawks. Well, you don't seem to have a problem when we're the ones surrounded.
The lot in question is privately owned. For the last year and a half, developer Grégoire Golin has been working with Kanesatake in hopes of repatriating it. But Oka says they're acting in good faith to preserve the pines, and that Golin is on board with the plan.
M. Golin ne s'est pas opposé, ne s'opposera pas non plus à ce changement.
Council says otherwise.
He wants to build a wall, while Mr. Golin wants to build bridges.
We reached out to Quevillon for details on the plan. He did not respond before deadline. Meanwhile, Simon threatens to take it to the courts.
We could all work in the context of Aboriginal title so that we can live together in peace, and maybe some mutual development can can be seen out of that. And the mayor, well, he has other plans. The economy's mine, the resources are mine, and you can't have it. Well, I got news for him.
Mohawk Council will be filing a legal brief on the Pines dispute in the coming weeks. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Kanesatake Mohawk Territory.
The Saskatchewan party leader Scott Moe was re-elected as premier in Monday night's election as the party secured its fourth Conservative majority. But one Indigenous candidate for the NDP won her seat. APTN's Priscilla Wolfe spoke to Betty Nippy Albright about her thoughts on working with a majority Sask party government.
Tonight I would give you my word that we will be a government for all of the people. Whether you supported the Saskatchewan party or whether your support lied with a different party, we will govern for all. And we will work to build a strong Saskatchewan for all of us.
Those are the promises of Premier Scott Moe after his Saskatchewan party swept the provincial election with close to 40 seats. But there was some good news for the NDP, who just got 11 seats. NDP candidate Betty Nippy Albright won the riding of Saskatoon Centre. Nippy Albright, who is Cree Soto from the Kiniston Soto Nation, says she's open to working with the majority government. She worked for the health region in the past and says she learned how to build relationships.
For myself, how I was able to do that and bring programming into the core area is developing relationships with people that make those decisions, because I wasn't a decision maker. However, I was able to, the strength I had was to build relationships and to build trust and be that bridge within the community. So I think those are skills that I bring to the table in working with a Sask party majority, is that at the end of the day, we hope that we are both working for the people of Saskatchewan.
Some of the issues that Nippy Albright will be advocating for are mental health and addiction services.
Some of the issues that we face here in Saskatoon Centre are issues related to mental health. We have high suicide rates amongst Aboriginal people, Indigenous people. I go to funerals all the time. Those are issues that affect me at a personal level.
Nippy Albright also says it's important to give people in Saskatchewan employment opportunities.
An issue is employment. We need to keep our people employed here in Saskatchewan. Trades, they have to leave the province to find work. We need people employed here.
She is hopeful that after this election, all people in Saskatchewan have a chance to be heard and to work together.
I would use my strengths of building relationships to be able to building relationships, as well as bridging those relationships between mainstream and Indigenous people to work together for the people of Saskatchewan.
Priscilla Wolfe, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Just over 2 weeks after Nunavut's premier stripped him of his cabinet portfolios, Turk Netzer got to make his case to members of the Legislative Assembly and argue why he should keep his job. But not before members got to hear one of the most remarkable speeches ever given at the Assembly. This from Iqaluit.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Premier Joe Savikata took away Evelyn MLA Patrick Netzik's cabinet positions after Netzik posted on Facebook asking how many abortions Black Lives Matter protesters have. Under Nunavut's consensus system of government, the Premier assigns the cabinet jobs, but only the full Assembly can remove someone from cabinet. First, Savikata made his case for removal.
This kind of intolerance is not covered under one's freedom of expression, and it is simply not an option to ignore this intolerance. Nunavut Mu deserve better.
Only one of his colleagues took to the floor to support Netzik. Netzilik riding MLA Emiliano Kirngnuk.
The written note that he made were not written in the House. And so therefore I'm not comfortable with the motion put forward and the removal that we're trying to proceed with. Because as you mentioned, we do have an expression of freedom, expression within Canada.
When Netzik rose to defend himself, he did express some regret for part of his comments. He said he's learned that saying all lives matter undermines Black people.
And I would not have chosen these words if I knew they could be misconstrued as attempting to negate the struggles of my black brothers and sisters.
Then Netsik began to read a letter into the record, one he says he received from a non-Inuk supporter who lives in Nunavut. Netsik spent 4.5 minutes reading the conspiracy theory-packed letter into the record. Here's some of it.
Will they be picked up and shipped into the dark of the night to one of the many new internment camps built across Canada today? It would be easy to become an unreported lost souls now that the federal government pays Canadian news media and currently rushing towards controlling what is said and reported on the internet. How quickly it has become, all lives don't matter. Today, express an opinion or think out loud and you're removed. Impose mind control for all to stay silent.
MLAs then voted on Netsik's future in cabinet, and by a vote of 13-3, they voted to remove him. Netsik will remain as the Evilik riding MLA and loses around $30,000 in annual income he received from his cabinet post. MLAs will choose another MLA to replace him, but the date that will happen is not immediately clear. Ken Driscoll, APTN National News, Iqaluit.
Time for a quick break, but still to come, how the tourism industry in the Northwest Territories is finding ways to cope with the pandemic. Stay with us. Welcome back. Hosting a concert during a global pandemic is no easy task, but an Edmonton music venue is trying to do just that, with the goal of raising money for a downtown homeless camp. Chris Stewart spoke with one of the artists taking part in the fundraiser.
More than 2,000 people are believed to be homeless in the city of Edmonton. Camp Pikiwiwin was created to help house some of those who do not have a home. The camp has become a small community unto itself, with roughly 170 people calling the camp home. It sprung up earlier this summer, but with the weather turning colder, the camp is in need of supplies for the winter. Local music venue, the Aviary, hosted a fundraiser for the camp Tuesday night. And Edmonton's The Spanish Flies were one of the bands who signed up to help.
They need help, they need money, to get stuff, to get ready for winter. So we were asked if we could play to collect some funds, and we immediately said yes.
Those in attendance could buy artwork by artist Mark Elliott Muzz and listen to local indie rock artists. New provincial rules mandate a maximum amount of 15 people for gatherings in the city, making fundraising tough.
So the idea to collect money is through people paying to get in, and also people, if they want to buy the art, they can go ahead with it. Probably some of the drinks of the night might go there, I know that it's going to be a little difficult right now with COVID or whatnot, but any help is always welcome.
Gamera says he supports Edmonton's Mayor Don Iveson's vision of having zero homeless in the city.
There's so much money being wasted all the time in inefficient things that I'm sure some of that money could be redirected into helping the homeless community. Like, why not? They're also citizens. There are proofs that this has worked in other countries. So why not take that example and, make it here?
Despite the size restrictions, organizers say they have raised over $700 for the camp. Another fundraiser is planned at the Aviary on November 3rd. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
Indigenous tourism operators in the Northwest Territories have supported border closures during the COVID-19 pandemic. But this sector is also suffering the greatest magnitude of job losses because keeping the borders closed is keeping their customers away. So they want the territorial government to start planning for a reopening. Charlotte Moore Jacobs sorts that out for us.
As things stand, Joe Bailey is only a few months away from having to give up his office in downtown Yellowknife, a cost-cutting measure for his tourism business, one of many he's made during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Up to 99% of our business is from visitors from outside the territory. With the closures of the borders, well, that's been devastating for sure. Unfortunately, today is going to be our last day, Wednesday, March
This year, Bailey's North Star Adventures lost over $200,000. 50,000 of that went to refunds on Winter Aurora tours booked months in advance. Now, during the Fall Aurora, every operator is struggling.
There's a river, it's big.
This was B-Dene Adventures in nearby Detta pre-pandemic. When APTN visited in 2018, operator Bobby Drygees and his staff were entertaining their regular 30-plus crowd.
It was really getting a little bit better, and every year, getting more and more people and working with more and more companies around Yellowknife. So,
in the 2018-2019 fiscal year, the Northwest Territories saw 110,000 visitors. B-Dene Adventures was investing more into the business.
We got a loan from the bank there, and for a new van, and about 3-4 new skidoos and snowmobiles and sleds, and then that was in December, and in March everything shut down. And
Kathy Bolsted's been collecting data from operators. She's with NWT Tourism, a nonprofit serving 200 industry members. The organization interviewed 94 tourism companies, 2/3 of whom were considered small businesses. Their survey showed nearly 1,000 tourism operators have lost their jobs since the border closure.
The numbers were not surprising, but they were devastating. We learned that in the first 7 months of 2020, 70% of tourism operators had seen 75% or more decrease in their revenues.
This summer, NWT Tourism assisted operators in marketing NWT staycations to locals.
Yeah, I mean, just beautiful photo for sure.
Drygees and Bailey both took advantage. North Star Adventures offered paddling trips in the Dead Show, a temporary way to earn some cash. But operators APTN News spoke with say they want the territorial government to consider allowing some travel exemptions next year if rapid testing for COVID-19 becomes available.
We understand why they're keeping the borders closed, and so we just got to try and work around that. Exemption for next year, we have our guests fly in to Yellowknife. They're on the top floor of the Explorer, isolating for 14 whatever hours. Next morning, we're off to one of the communities. We launch our canoes, and then, of course, just by the default of the canoes here, 3 meters apart.
NWT Tourism will host their AGM with members this week and bring their resolutions forward to the territorial government for consideration. Charlotte Mort-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Time for one more quick break, but still to come, a crop circle like no other. Stay with us. Welcome back. This next story is about a film that is based on an award-winning book. With an all-Indigenous cast, Monkey Beach is about to light up the big screen across the country. Tina House has that story.
Contacting the dead. Lesson 1. Concentrate on nothing and everything at the same time.
What are you doing here?
No.
Shot in the Haisla Territory near Kitimat, BC, Monkey Beach touches on the past and modern-day struggles of a community. It centers on the journey of Lisa Marie, played by Grace Dove, as she returns home from the big city and encounters ghosts and spirits from the past.
It's a beautiful journey because I think that as a young person, she's struggling between two worlds, which I think a lot of us do relate with.
Grace Dove is no stranger to the silver screen. The actress's resume is jam-packed with various roles, but for her, this film is a dream come true.
To work with my mentors, people that I look up to, like Adam Beach, like Nathaniel Arcan, Stephanie Mathias, it's such a full circle.
Wow, you're not going anywhere without me.
The making of Monkey Beach has taken director-producer Loretta Todd over 15 years.
It's been quite a journey to make Monkey Beach and get it to the screen.
It started with optioning it, of course, from Eden Robinson, so much love and respect for her, for trusting me with it for all these years, because her writing was like my filmmaking. It really is an Indigenous woman's story, and every one of them is strong in their own lives and as role models and giving back to their communities.
Filled with folklore and special effects, the film also touches on residential schools and the multi-generational effects. Elder Harriet Prince and her friends just saw the movie and were really moved by it.
Really enjoyed it, and it really kind of hit home, especially with a residential school. Yeah, it's so nice to see the actors. I knew 90% of them.
People in all across Canada, and Loretta Todd portrayed that in this movie very, very well.
And for Grace Dove, she says something magical happened during filming.
There is this beautiful sunset and the mountains, and I could just feel the power in the people and in the land, and that plays such a big part of the story as well. And I got to see a whale that came right up to my boat, and I felt like, you know, people pay big money for something like that, and there I was experiencing this firsthand.
Monkey Beach was #1 at the box office in BC last weekend and will screen at Cineplex Odeon theaters nationwide on October the 30th, as well as film festivals across North America. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Now a story from our Something You Don't See Everyday file. This video is of a crop circle on the Roseau Rapids 9A Reserve about an hour south of Winnipeg. The circle, created by artist Wabi Barkman, is on a piece of disputed land. A local farmer says he has a lease that allows him to work the land. We're checking in that story, but in the meantime, the circle has its own artistic merit. The shape of the Thunderbird on such a large scale is not something you see every day, and the being is held in high regard by just about every Indigenous culture in the Americas. We hope to have more on the story and the significance of the crop circle in the coming weeks. And that is all the time we have for your APTN National News Weekend. For news anytime, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend.